Our home is beautiful and filled with diverse wonders. There is a delicate balance on this planet that supports life and allows it to flourish. Every individual is a part of that balance, and all of our actions have an impact. Today, we are at a crossroad. With higher temperatures and rising sea levels, natural disasters are increasing in frequency and strength, while ecosystems around the globe are becoming unstable. If we stay on our current unsustainable path, the planet will continue to be thrown off balance, unable to provide us with the safety and resources all living things rely on. The choices we make today shape the future of this planet. Since Arctic House opened its doors 4 years ago, every year we have been celebrating cherry blossoms here in Washington, D.C. because they're such a vibrant and beautiful part of the local culture here. This year we decided to look at the cherry blossoms as a representation for nature's resilience within an overdeveloped metropolis 100 years from today. Renewal 2121, an Arctic House original, invites visitors to think about what kind of future world they want to leave behind for generations to come. Every year when we celebrate cherry blossoms and the traditions that surround them, we invite Japanese artists to be a part of this installation. In this case, Yuya Takeda, a visual artist from Japan, designed the scenes and look of the city in the main space.
One of the first scenes that I created was this the cityscape, and that's where it really begins. Like we're on top of the building and we're looking around, and you can see all these like neon signs, but it's also like it's got this really vibrant feel to the whole thing, almost like an explosion of color. We have scenes from the market street, alleyways. It's these tiny little areas within Tokyo that in some ways I was trying to revive some of that tradition, the feeling of it, but also in a very futuristic manner. As I was working on it, I realized that I'm trying to tell this story about, these massive spaces that would, essentially engulf these people. And, overall, it's an adventure from like the biggest scale all the way to the smallest scale. At one point, I guess you feel like a giant all the way down to an ant.
His digital artwork was taken by an Arctic House creative team and animated, made interactive, and transformed into a living and breathing environment that the visitors get to see when they enter the space.
He gave us the composition, and from there we create all the animation. The artist works with like Octane or this kind of tools that is for rendering. The challenge here was to actually change that to a different workflow so we can animate these big resolutions.
When visitors are in the space, they can actually see their silhouette in the artwork and also see how their presence is transforming the visuals around them. During those scenes, we also wanted to include real facts that allow visitors to learn more about our current impact on our environment.
Originally, I was wondering how these flat images are going to come to life, and being able to produce something, this massive at this scale is quite actually an achievement and an honor.
The main space features music by Mario Hammer and the Lonely Robot, a duo from Germany, whose music is very much focused on the intersection between the digital and the electronic, as well as the natural sounds of the world.
When you listen to our album or to our music, we have some seagull cries and we have some seashore and wave sounds. There are nature sounds. When you listen to one track and there's these ocean waves, it just touches you. I think every human feels if you hear that sound, you kind of grounded. So we work a lot with analog synthesizers and starting maybe with the original sound, with the original waves, but then morph it into the synthetic world, but keep that kind of rhythm and that feeling alive.
think that the music to the image and the image to the music works very well together to leave an emotional impact on the audience.
Even if it's up-tempo or very slow, hopefully we will touch people's emotions with it.
We are inviting everyone into a futuristic city that is very reliant on technology. This can especially be seen in the installation called Backend, which allows visitors to see the machine that runs and powers the city. But not only does this machine support the city, it also watches it.
My goal was to make that space feel alive, and so whether or not there's a perceived presence, I wanted it to feel like when you're not in the room, it's just kind of like humming along like normal, but when you come in, it sort of wakes up. Another piece of that room is the content that's on the screens. We use a lot of like found footage of cherry blossoms specifically, and then processed that with an analog video console that has been modified to create sort of like glitchy artifacts and effects. And then that is like the content that you switch between as you move through the space. You get shots of cameras in the space. It's kind of like a little bit of a surveillance aspect. You're looking at nature, but it's through a screen. And we're thinking about this installation as in the future, right? And there's still, of course, like beauty in the visuals that you're seeing, but you're looking at it and it's through not only a screen, but it's also through a distorted like glitch. It's not a clear view of it, and I think that is kind of like the message. You know, something that is, I think, a little bit dystopian can say something about now, not just as a warning, but just as like a, okay, let's think about this and how this is different even than like being outside and looking at these things.
To the other side of the main space, visitors enter the Sleepless Alley. Reminiscent of a busy market street in Tokyo, this installation houses different interactive points where visitors can get to see what life is like for these future residents of this metropolis in 2121. Arctic House DC was completely transformed for the city, either through projection or actual custom built out environments. Working with Design Foundry, a local company that creates sets and designs these environments, it was very important for us that we stay true to the message that we're trying to convey. Which is why actually about 80% of all the materials used in creating Renewal 2121 are either recycled or repurposed for this installation. The Sleepless Alley has an interesting fusion of futuristic elements, but bringing in some of those vintage looks that we are familiar with. For example, the claw machine, which becomes a UFO catcher, or the pachinko machine, which traditionally is a mechanical arcade game that has now become digital. On the other side, just with the movement of their hands, visitors are able to place an order, and then a robot chef is creating a digital version of the food that they ordered right before their eyes.
I think one that I like is the vending machine, which basically it's the idea is that you kind of like scan your hand, and based on your bio reading, it suggests a drink for you. So it has a little bit of this surveillance, big data, like knowing stuff about your biological sequence kind of vibe to it. There's like a food cart to the right of the door, and it's not really food, it's more like these like kind of weird experimental beaker lab. And that one lets you kind of by moving your hands trigger these like glowing beakers and also light up these glass bulbs in different ways with sound. Also, there's an electrical shop or like a light bulb display, and again, that one is you can kind of like move your hands and trigger these lights and sounds. There's a kitchen in the back with all these like frying pans and like a pan in the sink and a pot, and so each one of those has a different sort of future food item in it that you can, moving your hands over them, interact with them in different ways. It has some elements that really are just kind of fun. There are a few in there that really do get at the concept of climate change and renewal. The one that is maybe the most like poignant is the extinct menagerie. The concept of this collectibles display, but then instead of them being kind of like action figures or collectibles, they're items that are extinct 100 years from now but aren't currently. And so we base this on research about sort of different trends and sort of things that are threatened if we don't take action. A lot of this kind of ties into building the ambience of this space. And then when we sprinkle in the things like the extinct collectibles or the vending machine concepts, I think that those kind of poke out, right, in the way that we want. So some of these are just about cultivating these like playful interactions.
As the visitors continue to explore the city and leave the Sleepless Alley, they actually find themselves on a construction bridge where the visitors get to look down and see the city below, but also notice just how many drones are a part of it, always watching and moving throughout the space. They're actually able to control the drones through the movement of their hands. In this space, the visitors again get to see themselves become a part of the installation through the silhouette at the end of the bridge. Visitors can find a collection of stickers that can be activated with the Arctic House XR app. If they look at those stickers using their device in our extended reality app, they will actually get to see an invisible digital activation. The XR Arctic House app experience actually extends beyond the walls of Arctic House. Visitors can also discover one more XR activation off-site to bring a mural to life and see Yuya Takeda's work come alive in a different way. Like in every big city, visitors can discover a mural in one of the spaces. Created by a New York-based Japanese artist, Dragon76, the mural focuses on the relationship between nature and technology, humans and the world around them. In creating Renewal 2121, we wanted to join the very important conversation around climate change and preserving nature. We hope that this experience encourages visitors to think about their daily life and the choices they make, the things they buy, the things they use, and make more sustainable choices in the future.
You can change the world by like biking to work instead, trying to take less flights, all the small things like eating less meat. You're not going to be able to prevent someone else's actions, but that shouldn't be a reason to not change yours, because that's the thought process that prevents us from making large changes. Is saying, well, I don't matter, my decisions don't matter as an individual because I can't change the big picture. And it's like, well, yes, you can. You have to first start by changing that sentiment.
A lot of the cyberpunk sort of themed material out there tends to be a little bit more bleak, but we're not just talking about the cyberpunk world where everything is all going downhill. There's still this beauty there that these trees hopefully would grow still in the future. It's about hope, it's about renewal. I believe that, especially with the environment, right? It's constantly this changing thing, yet we can't see it because of our, human scale time, I would say. I'm just kind of wondering, it's like, how do we manage that? How do we go on from here? As an artist, I feel like, my answer to that would be like building exhibitions like this.
The huge increase in information and innovation, which has allowed us to reach new heights and has become an integral part of our lives, defines our current technological age. But it also has had the unintended consequence of causing many to lose their connection to the natural world. As technology continues to play larger roles in our lives, it is essential that we strive for a balanced existence, where we can continue to grow and explore, but no longer at the expense of our natural world.